trigonometry, finding values. This is the type of trig question where we don't have the triangles, they've just asked us to evaluate some things. So the first question you'll see they're asking the sort of thing like evaluate sine of 32 degrees. Now all we need to be able to do is get a number, that's fine. But we might want to know what this means. Remember, sine of an angle is opposite over hypotenuse. So this question is asking, if I had a right-angled triangle with 32 degrees as one of the other angles, what would I get if I did opposite over hypotenuse in that triangle? That is, what is the sine ratio for 32 degrees? Now, always make sure your calculator is in degrees mode. It should show on its screen a little D or DEG. The calculator I'm using here is different to yours, so this one's not much use to you to demonstrate that. Once your calculator's in degrees mode, this one's really easy. To evaluate sine of 32 degrees, here's the sine key. It will be pretty close to here on your calculator. Sine 32, you don't need to hit the degrees sign, equals. You will need to round. They'll often say to 3 decimal places. So that's 0. Now I've got 5299. So 0.5299, cutting off at 3 decimal places. Check if I'm going to round up, if that's 5 or more. Yes, it is, so I will round this up. That will be 10, making that 0 where the 9 is, and adding 1 to the 2, so it will be 530. Tricky there. If you're not good with rounding, get some assistance. So all we do for these is just type it into the calculator. Cos 41 degrees, cos 41 equals 0.755. And tan of 83 degrees, tan 83 equals gosh, it's an interesting number. 8.144. Now all those were asking us is, if I had a triangle with 83 degrees or 41 degrees and it was a right angled triangle, what would the ratio of the sides be if I did cos, adjacent over hypotenuse, or tan? But since we don't have the triangle, we're just finding out the ratio. Easiest question ever. The next sort of question is the other way round, saying if I know the ratio, in this case they've told me the ratio of sine theta is 0.8, then what was the angle? And they've said, find the angle. Now this one, I need to rearrange. I just want the angle on its own, but I've got sine of the angle. You know very well that when I just want something on its own, I do the opposite of the thing that I want to get rid of. And the opposite, or reverse, let's say, because opposite is confusing to us now, reverse sine is sine with a little -1 above it. And reverse cos is cos with a little -1 above it. And reverse tan is the same. And if you've been looking at your calculator, you'll see up above sine is reverse sine. It's actually called inverse sine, which is almost exactly the same word. So inverse sine, and it means opposite of sine. So we write after sine theta equals 0.8. Let's scroll down a little bit. Sorry, this might jump the page a bit. I thought it might. Scrolling down. So if sine theta equals 0.8, then theta on its own is reverse or inverse sine 0.8. Now all that's saying is we've got to tell the calculator, hey, I've got the ratio, I want the angle. Before we told it, I've got the angle, I want the ratio. So we've got to tell it to look up the table the opposite way. Shift key gets me inverse sine, you'll see it's there, inverse sine and 0.8 equals, and that tells me my angle is 53 degrees. For angles, always go to the nearest whole number. So the second question, cos of the angle was 0.1. That means just for the angle, I'm going to have to do inverse cos of 0.1. Now you'll see I put brackets, it just makes it easier to read. You can put them on the calculator or you can not do it, it doesn't matter. So inverse cos, let's try with brackets. Brackets 0.1 equals, it still tells me my angle. Check that I don't need to round, no I don't, 84 degrees. So all these questions are saying is, if I know the ratio, please tell me, calculator, what was the angle? So the last one, tan of the angle is 1.2. The angle is inverse tan of 1.2. The angle inverse tan 1.2 equals 50 degrees. Again, I don't need to round. So it's quite a simple sort of question. You've just got to remember, if you're finding a ratio because you've been given the angle, then you just use sine, cos, or tan. If you're finding an angle because you know the ratio, use inverse sine, cos, or tan. And any question where you don't have to draw a triangle and you're just given these, they're quite simple. But you'll need to be able to do this when we do have a triangle, so it's best to learn how to use the calculator.